in this particular case, the Republicans were right.
So you think the Republicans are sort of an extreme fringe party?
No, I don't think that they're an extreme fringe party. I think that they're operating against those they believe are extreme on the left. Like, for example, when you talk about the LGBTQ community, I'm a fiscal conservative and I'm a social liberal. I'm fiscal with my dollars. I ain't apologizing for not wanting to pay high taxes to anybody. I'm not apologizing for that, right? But outside of that, I'm pretty liberal. Live and let live, okay?
Stephen A. Smith lit up The View and went straight for Sunny Hostin, tearing into her for defending the same kind of wokeness that helped sink the DNC in last year's elections. It's obvious that the party's push toward extreme policies played a huge role in their collapse. Yet Sunny keeps pretending none of that mattered, claiming their loss had nothing to do with the over-the-top ideas voters rejected. She insists wokeness wasn't the main problem. Now watch Stephen A. Smith dismantle her argument, showing exactly how this obsession with wokeness helped turn Harris's political run into a disaster.
I'm pretty liberal. Live and let live, okay? But you had folks on the left that were introducing some things when we got in the whole transgender issue, and they were talking about bathrooms, or they were talking about males transitioning to females and competing against girls in sports and stuff like that.
These are less than 1% of the population.
I understand that,
but you know what? Add
ridiculous.
In the NFL.
But see, but I think that's where the mistake is made.
Yeah,
you're saying it's ridiculous. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But most of the voters out there don't think like that.
But that means they don't have the information.
Okay, but 90% of the voters don't have the information.
It's striking how many still miss why Kamala Harris and the DNC lost the election. The real reason? Their relentless obsession with wokeness. Across the country, parents raised concerns that were ignored as if they didn't matter. Moms and dads didn't want their daughters forced to share bathrooms with biological men. Still, the Democrats acted like this was enlightened progress everyone had to accept. Families also pushed back against girls being forced into unfair sports competitions against biological men with clear physical advantages. These weren't fringe complaints. There were widespread frustrations in homes all across America. Instead of listening or reconsidering, the DNC doubled down, labeling anyone who disagreed as bigoted or intolerant. That arrogance didn't just push voters away, it backfired. People don't want ideology shoved into schools, sports, and homes. They want fairness, common sense, and leaders who respect basic biological reality, not endless experiments dressed up as moral progress.
If you're out there busting your tail to make ends meet and to pay your bills, and you're going to work every day, and you got a family to take care of, and you got to stay, you're in New York City, you're getting stuck 2 hours of your day, you're stuck in traffic, you understand, you got a whole bunch of stuff to go through. You don't have time to know what you and I know.
Maybe you need to listen to the news when you're in traffic.
Well, again, I agree with that.
Not be uninformed.
Or you listen to stuff that's going to take you away from the things that brings down your spirit. And that's unfortunately what most voters are doing.
Most Americans are too busy living their lives to analyze every political issue or policy thrown at them. They work long hours, juggle responsibilities, pay bills, raise families, and don't have time to read through pages of data or research papers or watch panels of experts debate theories that rarely affect real life. So, when something doesn't make sense or feels completely disconnected from their daily struggles, they naturally vote against it. And really, who can blame them? For the average American, wokeness, identity politics, or the latest cultural experiment in Washington has never been a priority. Their focus is survival, stability, and making ends meet. They worry about rising costs for groceries, rent, healthcare, and gas. They care about steady jobs, affordable living, and safe communities, not lectures about pronouns, academic theories, or gender ideology in schools. At the end of the day, economics, not ideology, drives their vote. Common sense rooted in real life will always beat woke politics.
Because you were inserted, even though you were the vice president and it was the Biden-Harris administration, you had folks who are independent. I'm not talking about those on the right, I'm not talking about those on the left, just independents, who said, wait a minute, she didn't experience a primary either. And the last time we saw her in a primary was 4 years ago, and she didn't even make it to Iowa. They used that as an excuse to point to her level of inexperience. Then you got the war in Russia and Ukraine, you got the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Hamas and Hezbollah and all of that stuff. And you had Trump using codes. Look, do you want her? Where is she? Where's the interviews? Where's she showing herself? Where's the tough questions? Where's the interrogation? And he leaned on certain things.
Here, Stephen A. Smith doesn't just criticize Kamala Harris. He tears apart what's left of her political career with sharp, unapologetic clarity. Harris has never had genuine popularity, not even as vice president. From the start, it felt like she was being pushed onto voters instead of actually chosen. That resentment only grew as her policies slid further into full-blown wokeness. Smith highlights how this shift turned everyday Americans away, people tired of having political dogma forced on them instead of real solutions to real problems. But he doesn't stop at policy. He calls out Harris for dodging tough interviews, the kind of high-pressure conversations that show if a leader has the strength, confidence, and competence for the job. Instead of facing the challenge, Harris avoided scrutiny, making doubts about her ability and readiness even stronger. Smith's takedown makes it clear why voters rejected her so decisively. She was out of touch, untested in moments that mattered, and ultimately undone by her own political arrogance.
Does everybody remember he originally said he was just going to do it for 4
That's
years?
right.
Yeah.
That's what I brought up.
Right. And did you think that once you know who stepped in, he said, well, there's nobody, we don't have anybody?
Well, the point is that
That's right.
it's not about who you're going up against when you know you're not what you used to be. And see, this is where covering sports puts me at a distinct advantage. I cover people every day where it's time for you to go, but you're holding on and you don't want to leave. People who cover the world of sports are accustomed to seeing that all the time. You are the left, you leaned, and you were a prisoner to the extreme left in a lot of people's eyes. Well, guess what? Most of America doesn't operate on the fringes. Whether you're left or you're right, you're relatively centrist.
Stephen A. Smith couldn't have put it better. The Democratic Party became prisoners of their own extreme wing, the so-called woke squad, that slowly pulled the entire party off balance. Instead of standing firm or pushing back against the most radical voices, the mainstream left, even the supposed center left, stayed silent. And that silence spoke louder than any speech could. To everyday Americans, it made the party look like it was marching in lockstep with the extremes, embracing policies and rhetoric many voters found strange, divisive, or even dangerous. By refusing to distance themselves, Democrats let the idea take hold that wokeness completely defined them. Then came the election loss, and suddenly the same people who once defended that ideology scrambled to claim they were never that woke. By then, the damage was done. Voters had already decided the left had abandoned common sense for ideology. As Smith pointed out, denial after defeat isn't a strategy. It's proof of how out of touch they had become. And it came far too late.
The problem is those on the fringes continuously push for you to get everything you want.
Yeah.
They're not about getting things done. They're about getting their way. And if they're not going to get their way, they're about complaining and griping about it because they understand that when you are operating based off of grievance, that's usually what provokes you to get to the polls. And that is why they don't mind feeling aggrieved and displaying and disseminating that kind of message because they know people are going to gravitate to that. And as a result, that might get them to the polls, you thinking you're going to get what you want as a result of it.
The woke left eventually locked its grip on Kamala Harris, leaving her with a tough, unavoidable choice: bow to their rigid ideology or risk losing her place in the party. And, unsurprisingly, she caved. This wasn't shocking. The woke wing of the Democratic Party has a reputation for getting its way at all costs. They don't persuade through debate, reason, or discussion. They strong-arm, intimidate, and demand total obedience. Anyone who resists is quickly labeled intolerant, canceled, or threatened with the loss of career, reputation, or credibility. Harris went along with their agenda, hoping loyalty would protect her and keep her political career afloat. But in doing so, she pushed away a huge portion of mainstream Americans, sinking deeper into ideological orthodoxy. Instead of helping her, it destroyed her chances. Voters saw through the act, recognized the pandering, and rejected it decisively. In the end, she didn't just stumble, she became another high-profile casualty of the woke politics she embraced.
Do you think the Republicans are sort of an extreme fringe party?
No,
at
I
this point?
don't think that they're an extreme fringe party. I think that they're operating against those they believe are extreme on the left. Like, for example, when you talk about the LGBTQ community, I'm pretty liberal. Live and let live, okay?
Yeah.
But you had folks on the left that were introducing some things when we got in the whole transgender issue, and they were talking about bathrooms, or they were talking about males transitioning to females and competing against girls in sports and stuff like that.
Then, Sunny Hostin jumped in with her usual nonsense, and unsurprisingly, she delivered. True to form, she twisted Stephen A. Smith's words into something he never even suggested. Not once did Smith say the Republican Party was some kind of fringe movement. That's a straw man Sunny made up to dodge the real issue and avoid addressing the point he was making. What Smith actually said was clear and simple. The woke left had hijacked the Democratic Party, holding it hostage with radical policies and cultural crusades that pushed middle America away. Democrats let themselves be defined by the extremes. Meanwhile, Republicans stepped in to push back against the ideological overreach and confront the cultural decay spreading through the left. Smith wasn't calling Republicans fringe. He was showing they filled the leadership gap Democrats abandoned. Suddy's spin didn't disprove him. If anything, it only highlighted his point.
Howard Stern says that he wasn't confident that the country was ready to elect the first female president because he knows, quote, how men talk behind closed doors about us. So we're very privileged to have a great guy here today.
Yeah.
Tell her, what do men say about us behind closed doors?
Well, first of all,
Say it to our faces.
Yeah, do tell.
I don't hide, so no worries there. Here's the deal. I respectfully disagree with Howard Stern, only from the standpoint that I wish he had been more specific. Why don't you say white men? Because let me tell you something about black men. We love our mamas.
I know that.
We love.
I firmly believe it's long past time for America to move beyond the idea of giving leadership roles to women just because they are women. Representation matters, absolutely. But identity alone should never decide who becomes president. Our country faces huge challenges: economic instability, border security issues, failing healthcare, rising crime, and growing global competition. These problems can't be fixed with symbolic gestures or surface-level statements. They require strong, capable, results-driven leadership. We should choose leaders based on vision, the ability to make tough decisions, and a proven record of delivering real results, not their gender. Women who truly want to lead must show they have the grit, intelligence, discipline, and resilience to handle the presidency's responsibilities. America will welcome a female president, but only when she earns that trust through merit and skill, not as a hollow win for identity politics. The Democrats' loss wasn't about rejecting women or progress. It was about rejecting incompetence, political posturing, and relentless wokeness. Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton failed not because they were women, but because they didn't inspire confidence, show effective leadership, or connect with everyday Americans. Instead of addressing urgent issues like the economy, border security, inflation, and rising crime, they leaned into divisive identity politics that alienated large groups of voters. Stephen A. Smith was right. The woke left held the party hostage, pulling it further into extremes. By refusing to break free, Democrats sealed their own fate at the ballot box. America is ready for a female president, but she must be chosen for her skills, clear vision, and strength, not handed the role as a symbol. And that brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.